Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we are going to be exploring an article
Okay.
called Embracing Spiritual Consciousness, The Path to Awareness.
Interesting.
And it is from a website called The Spiritual Seek,
Oh.
which I think you'll be interested in.
Yeah.
They have personality tests and articles
Mhm.
and even like a blog about personal growth and all sorts of spiritual practices.
Sounds right up our alley.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I think,
Yeah.
you're here with us on this deep dive. And I
Mhm.
think that means you are probably interested in understanding a bit more about spiritual consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. And I think,
Yeah.
what's really interesting about this deep dive
Mhm.
is that we are not just skimming the surface.
Right.
We are going to unpack
Yeah.
what spiritual consciousness really means,
Mm.
why it resonates with so many people,
Yeah.
and most importantly, what practical steps you can take
All
to
right.
cultivate it in your own life.
So the article jumps right in and offers this definition of spiritual consciousness. And it emphasizes recognizing your connection to something bigger than yourself. It talks about moving from a self-centered existence
Mm-hmm.
to a soul-focused one,
Right.
which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and what I think is crucial to remember, too, is that
Yeah.
this journey is deeply personal. So there isn't like one right path
Mm.
to achieving spiritual consciousness.
Yeah.
It's about finding what resonates with you,
Okay.
your individual experiences,
Mm-hmm.
beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and even your cultural background. I think that's important.
Yeah, and the article talks about what motivates people to seek out this awareness in the first place.
Okay.
And they say that it's not about external rewards or achievements,
Right.
but this kind of deeper yearning for meaning.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
that really resonates with a lot of different schools of thought, like in psychology and philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
We have basic needs. And once those are met, we strive for this self-actualization, a purpose that extends beyond just the material world.
Right. So it is
Yeah.
like we are looking for something
Yeah,
bigger than ourselves.
exactly.
Okay, so the article goes on to say that we can cultivate this awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and it outlines some practical steps to do so.
Okay, cool.
So one that stood out to me was meditation.
Yeah.
And the article calls this like a gateway to tapping into deeper levels of consciousness.
I think meditation is so powerful. And what's really cool is that science is revealing all these tangible benefits.
Oh, wow.
For example, there are studies that show that regular meditation can actually change the structure of your brain,
Oh.
increasing gray matter
Oh.
in areas that are associated with self-awareness and compassion and emotional regulation.
Okay, so it's not just like feeling peaceful. It's
Right.
actually,
Rewiring our brains.
yeah, rewiring.
Yeah.
Though the article does mention that
Yeah.
meditation isn't always peace and quiet.
Right.
Like it can bring up challenging emotions too.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. It helps quiet the mind,
Okay.
which allows us to kind of face those emotions
Yeah.
with more clarity
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And that connects back to what the article said about self-love.
Yeah.
So facing those difficult emotions is how we understand and accept ourselves.
So it's not all just,
Mhm.
affirmations and bubble baths,
Right.
but it's this confronting
Yeah.
our shadow side and accepting it.
It is.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And all of this deeper self-awareness can actually have like a ripple effect on our relationships.
Okay.
The article talks about that too.
Yeah.
So as we become more aware of ourselves and our values and our needs,
Mm-hmm.
our relationships might shift.
Okay.
We might connect with people who share our journey,
Yeah.
while other relationships might just kind of evolve or fade away.
So it's not necessarily good or bad.
No,
it's
that's just an evolution.
yeah. It's how things change.
Yeah.
Well, the article also talks about gratitude as a powerful tool. Yeah. For spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. And it emphasizes appreciating what we have,
Right.
fostering contentment and
Right.
connection to the present moment.
And gratitude is so powerful. It can rewire our brains for happiness,
Really?
away from that negativity bias. It's not about ignoring challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but it's consciously shifting our focus to the abundance that's already there.
Yeah, and that's like that connection to something larger that the article is talking about. So it
Yeah.
seems like what they're saying is that spiritual consciousness
Yeah.
isn't some far-off concept. It's a journey of self-discovery.
And there are steps we can take.
Yeah, and there are
Up
these
here.
practical steps.
Yeah, like meditation and gratitude that help us
Yeah.
cultivate it.
Okay, so speaking of acknowledging something greater,
Yeah.
the article ends with these mini self-evaluation tests.
Oh, cool.
What do you think about these?
I think they're a great tool
Yeah.
for introspection.
Oh.
So the article gives us two. Are you a spiritual person?
Yeah.
And are you in the world or of the world?
Interesting.
They give us all these statements. And depending on how we answer,
Yeah.
it gives us a glimpse into our level of awareness.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think it'll get us thinking about where we are in our own journey.
Yeah.
Maybe spark some deeper conversations
Sure.
about what truly gives our lives meaning.
Exactly. I think it encourages us to kind of examine our values.
Yeah.
And explore our connection to something more than just the material world.
I love that. A snapshot of our spiritual landscape.
Yeah.
I'm eager to keep going with these tests
Yeah.
in the next part of our deep dive.
Let's do it. Let's see what we find.
Okay, so let's jump into those mini self-evaluation tests from the Spiritual Seek website.
Okay.
Remember, these are just for fun.
Right.
A way to kind of get us thinking about our own beliefs and spark some introspection.
No right or wrong answers.
Right.
It's all about the reflection.
Okay, so the first one is called, Are You a Spiritual Person?
Okay.
And it asks us to consider a bunch of statements and see which ones resonate with us.
Got it.
So one of them says, life is a journey without a precise destination.
Okay.
What do you think they're getting at with that?
Well, I think it challenges that idea that life is about reaching a certain endpoint.
Okay.
You know, achieving certain milestones or getting possessions.
Yeah.
Instead, it suggests that the meaning is found in the journey itself. The experiences we have, the connections we make, the growth we experience.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's really liberating.
Yeah.
Takes the pressure off of constantly striving and lets us just be present.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So another statement that I thought was interesting was, better an inconvenient truth than a comfortable lie. What do you think about that?
I think it speaks to honesty with ourselves and with others, even when it's difficult.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that idea of cognitive dissonance,
Right.
where we try to avoid information that challenges our beliefs.
We'd like to stay comfortable.
Right.
Yeah, and this is saying we have to kind of have that courage to face reality.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable. All right, so there's this emphasis on embracing the journey, on honesty.
Yeah.
And then it says, science and religion are sometimes very much alike.
Ooh, that's a good one.
What do you think about that?
Well, it challenges this perception that they're opposed.
Okay.
But when you really look at it, they're both trying to understand the nature of reality. They're just approaching it from different angles, different methodologies.
So they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Each offering a different perspective.
Right.
Okay. So then it says, the world is too complicated. More simplicity is needed.
Oh, yeah. I think this reflects what a lot of people are feeling.
Yeah.
Just overwhelmed
Yeah.
by the complexity of modern life.
Right. It's like
technology, information, consumerism.
Yeah, we're drowning.
Yeah. And we've lost touch with what matters.
Okay, so this desire for simplicity, it's not about rejecting all progress and technology, but it's about consciously choosing to simplify, to create space for what matters.
That brings us joy and meaning.
Right. Okay. So then it says, sometimes I have the feeling that human society is insane.
Oh, I bet a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. It's hard to ignore all of the violence and injustice happening around us.
And the environmental destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last one from this test is, the more I inquire and learn, the more doubts arise in my mind.
I feel that one.
You too.
The more we know, the more we realize we don't know.
Yeah, it's humbling.
It is. It's very humbling.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's about letting go of the need to have all the answers.
Yeah.
So we go through all these statements, and then the test has us add up how many of them resonated.
Right.
And then it gives us an idea of where we fall on this spirituality spectrum.
Yeah.
But it's really just a starting point.
Right. It's about that introspection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the second test?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
This one's called, Are You in the World or of the World?
Interesting.
It's inspired by a quote from the Gospel of John, where Jesus says, if you were of the world would love his own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hates you.
Wow. That's a powerful quote.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think this test is really getting us to think about our relationship to the material world.
Yeah. Do we feel like we belong here, or is our true home somewhere else?
Okay. So what are some of these statements?
Okay. So one that I thought was really interesting was, death is simply the end of everything.
Okay, so that's pretty materialistic.
Materialistic, right?
Or
Yeah.
so that really contrasts with
Christ.
any belief in an afterlife
Exactly.
or reincarnation or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay, so then it says, I would like to live forever if it were possible.
So that's tapping into that fear of death.
Right.
That desire to cling to life.
Yeah.
Even if it means clinging to suffering.
So it's about that desire for permanence.
Yeah.
Even though we know that everything is impermanent.
Right.
All right, the next statement says, you have to live each day as if it were your last.
Okay, so that seems to contradict the previous one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But what do you think they're saying here?
I think it's about living with a sense of urgency and purpose.
Okay.
It's not about being reckless, but it's about recognizing the preciousness of each moment.
Yeah.
Okay, the next statement is, I feel comfortable in society, although it is not perfect. Yeah, so that's about our level of acceptance of the world as it is with all its imperfections.
Yeah, just accepting what is.
Exactly.
Okay. Next it says, religion is useless now that science explains everything.
So I think that one reveals a very limited understanding of both science and religion.
Right. Like they're not mutually exclusive.
They're not.
Okay, last one from this test. I have the feeling that I have already lived on this planet.
Ooh, okay, getting metaphysical.
Yeah.
So this is pointing to reincarnation.
Right.
The idea that our souls have lived multiple lives.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating.
It is.
So then we total up our responses for this one.
Okay.
And it tells us whether we're more in the world or of the world.
Right, but like the other one, it's about the reflection.
The reflection is the important part.
Yeah.
Well, these tests have definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, me too.
It's amazing how these simple questions can lead to such
profound introspection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds us that this journey starts within. Okay, so where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways for our listeners? Well, I think the biggest one is self-reflection.
Okay.
It's about asking ourselves those big questions.
Yeah, like
what do I believe?
Yeah, what gives my life meaning?
How do I want to show up?
Yeah.
And there are no right or wrong answers.
Right.
It's about what feels right to you.
Yeah.
These tests remind us that spirituality isn't just for a select few.
Right.
It's something we can all access and cultivate. And remember, this is just the beginning of our exploration.
Right.
The article also gives us a bunch of practical steps for cultivating this spiritual consciousness.
I'm looking forward to diving into those.
Me too.
Wow. Those tests really got me thinking.
Yeah, me too.
About how our beliefs shape our perceptions.
Absolutely. And I think the tests really encourage us to move beyond just thinking about spirituality and start applying it.
Right, like putting it into practice.
Exactly, because it's one thing to understand the concepts,
right?
But it's a whole other thing to actually live them.
Yeah, and I think that's where the practical steps from the article come in.
Right.
Things like meditation and emotional intelligence and self-love and gratitude. These are tools that we can use.
Yeah.
Okay, so the article really stresses the power of meditation.
Yeah.
It says that it's foundational.
Yeah, it's like the foundation for developing this spiritual consciousness.
And why is that?
Well, meditation gives us a way to quiet all that mental chatter.
Okay.
So we can connect with stillness and awareness.
So there's actually like a scientific basis for this.
Oh, yeah. Science is catching up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. There are studies showing that it can help us focus and reduce stress and even regulate our emotions.
Wow. So it's not just about feeling peaceful.
It's about training our minds.
Yeah.
To be more aware and present.
But the article does say that it can be challenging.
It can.
It's not all just blissful serenity.
Right. Sometimes it brings up those difficult emotions that we've been avoiding.
Where like it's like a mirror.
It is a mirror.
Reflecting back all those parts of ourselves.
And we have to face those with compassion.
Which brings us to self-love.
Yeah. It's all connected.
Okay, so the article is saying that self-love isn't just about affirmations and bubble baths.
Yeah. It's about accepting ourselves.
Yeah, like accepting all those flaws.
Exactly, like recognizing our worthiness.
Yeah.
Regardless of our achievements.
Yeah, I like that.
And treating ourselves with kindness even when we mess up.
Okay, so it's a practice.
It is.
So how does this self-awareness impact our relationships?
Well, as we grow and evolve, our relationships might change too.
Okay.
Some might deepen as we connect with like-minded people. and some might just fade away.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
not about judging those relationships, but it's about...
It's about honoring our own growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the article talks about gratitude
Yeah.
as this powerful tool
It is a powerful tool.
for cultivating spiritual consciousness.
It's about appreciating the good,
Yeah.
both big and small.
I like to just take a few minutes every day to think about what I'm grateful for.
It can really shift our perspective.
It does.
Yeah, and it's like an antidote to that negativity bias.
Oh, right. Because our brains tend to focus on the negative.
Exactly.
So we're basically rewiring our brains
Yeah, we
for
are.
happiness.
That's the goal.
So we've explored some of these practices.
We have.
But this journey is so personal.
It is.
So what advice do you have?
For our listeners.
I would say trust your intuition.
Okay.
You have this inner guidance system that will guide you.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to explore
Mm-hmm.
and find what works for you.
Right, because it's a process of finding our own path.
Exactly.
It's not a destination.
It's a journey.
Well, I think this brings us to the end of our deep dive
It does.
into spiritual consciousness.
I feel like we covered a lot.
We did.
Yeah, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
keep seeking those truths that light up your path.
Keep exploring.